Dexter. I want to know, who are you, Brittany? Who are you, Ajay? And who are you collectively as a married couple?
Okay, so I'll go first. I am Brittany Dexter, formerly Brittany Henry, born to Tawana and Travis Henry in Pontiac, Michigan. It's where I was born and raised. I am the oldest of four, and I am a mother of three, almost four. We're actually about 3 weeks away from our due date, so we're hoping there's no contractions during the meeting today. But I am a woman of God, first and foremost. I am a wife, a mother, a friend, a sister. My ministry, my area of ministry is working with mothers and children. That's where my heart is. I love working with babies. I am a bookkeeper by trade, so I work from home. I own a bookkeeping business, and I love to craft. I am into meditation and yoga and just trying to keep positive energy at all times. And I'm a book nerd. I love to read. And sometimes I think my guilty pleasure is reality TV shows.
Yeah, you think?
Yeah,
Yeah.
big time. So that's who I am.
Go ahead, RJ. Just feed off
my
of your
turn.
wife.
Okay. I am, you call me RJ, most people do, but my full name is Robert Lee Dexter Jr. Um, I am a man of God who is trying to learn his path, who is trying to learn the path that God would have for him. Um, Currently, I'm a husband, I'm a father, expecting uh, an additional one. Um, I have I've made mistakes, but God has brought me through. Um, I'm a person who's not defined by my mistakes, but more so how I've been able to recover, and not by my own strength, but by the might of God. Um, yeah, I work a lot. My wife would probably say I work a little bit too much, but I work for Florida Power and Light. So anytime the thunder rumbles and the lightning flashes, I might be getting a phone call. Um, my father worked for the same company for 40 some odd years. And so, yeah, my father was a man of God. I'm trying to do my best to make his memory proud. He passed 2018. So, I still have my ups and downs with that. But I'm trying my best not, how can I put it? Um, I'm trying my best not to live in his shadow per se, but to create something of my own, something that he would be proud of.
Amen. So now I want to know who you are together, like ministry work, or shall I say, we want to know how you all like work together, because you just explained, Brother Dexter, who you are, and Brittany just shared who she is, but to collectively, who are you together?
Hmm. Together, I think we are, I don't know. I think God has made us encouragers together in the faith, certainly. Um, we have been placed in a lot of positions to encourage because of our story. And I think that has made us, that's kind of set us on our path a little bit,
Yeah.
sometimes reluctantly. But I think together we're helpers by nature as well. We're servants at heart. So a lot of times in any capacity, we find ourselves behind the scenes, helping out, being the extra hand, being the support, in any way that we can. That's who we are together. It's just helpers, both of us, I would say.
Yeah, I would
Yeah.
agree with that. Ditto.
All right, Patrick Swayze. The next question I have for you is, how did you all meet?
This is a fun story.
Oh boy.
You want to go first? You want me to go first?
No, you can go first.
Okay, so we're a blended family. So this is our second marriage. So we were both divorced at the time, and we share a mutual friend, Sarita, and her husband actually did a Jesus Sprinkle as well. He grew up with her husband Jojo and Sarita. Once her and Joe got married, they went to Suncoast, which is the church that he's from originally. And Sarita and I used to go to church together at Pembroke. So she called me. It had actually been a while since she and I spoke. And she called me one day and she was like, I have somebody I want you to meet. And I'm like, no, not even interested, because I said right now my husband is Jesus. I don't even want to talk to nobody at all. I had went through a very, very, very difficult marriage and divorce and have 2 children from that marriage. And just in trying to come out of that divorce and try to meet people again and call myself dating and all of that, it was just a total disaster. So when she called me, I was like, nope, I don't want to meet him. If it ain't Jesus, I'm not interested. So she said, no, I think you guys are just be friends. Don't think about dating. Don't think about it being anything more than just meeting a man of God and developing a friendship. So I said, okay, I'll consider it. And I said, Sarita, who you put me with? I said, who's his family? Do he go to church? Who are you put me together with? So she said, no, you'll like him. He come from a good family. And she said, he has nice teeth. And I said, what? He has nice teeth. And she's like, yeah, because, you try to ask, like, girl, what he look like? Is he cute? Is he what? Can you show me a picture? And she's like, don't worry about all that. Don't worry about all that. You only trying to be friends, right? Why you worried about all that if you trying to be friends? So I said, you're right, you got a point. So she said, don't worry, he has really nice teeth. And I thought that was the funniest thing that still sticks out to me to this day. So she said, okay. And after that, we just kind of ended the conversation, talked as regular, whatever, caught up. And I think the next thing I know, she said, no, she told me his name. She did tell me his name. And she told me that he was Brother Daniel's cousin. And I said, okay, because I said, my question to her was, can anybody vouch for him? Like, because that was a mistake in my first marriage. If people don't know who you are dating or who you're talking to, if nobody can vouch for him, don't do it. So I asked Sarita, I said, who is his family? Who is his people? Can anybody vouch for who he is as a man? And she said, yes, he's Brother Daniel's cousin. So you can call Brother and Sister Daniels, ask them about him, and I think you'll be okay. I said, okay. So we got off the phone that day and I did just that. I called Sister Daniels, that's like spiritual mom, auntie, cousin now by marriage. And I called her and I said, sis, now you gotta, don't let me make no more mistakes now. You gotta tell me what the real deal, tell me the whole real deal. And she was like, no. She said, RJ. You could hear her trying to think of for a minute. She said, RJ. She said, I remember RJ. She said, that's Ava's boy. I said, yeah. She said, ain't he married too? He used to be married? And I said, yes, ma'am. And she said, he's a nice young man. He just don't talk. And I said, he don't talk? She said, no. She said, where's my man? He don't talk. So she said, that's all I remember about him. She said, I know he a grown man now, but I remember when he was a little kid, he was just as cute as he wanted to be, but he just don't talk. He just real quiet. So I said, okay. But she said, he's a nice young man. She said, I never heard anything bad about him. He don't hang out in the streets. He don't do a whole lot. He come from a good family. His mother and father are great parents. He got 2 great sisters. So she was, kind of just telling me about his family and everything. So I said, okay, well, Sarita just called me and told me that she wants us to meet. So she said, oh, okay. So you could hear her kind of talking to Brother Daniels in the background. And he said, yeah, RJ, yeah. Like they were trying to think in their head, like, that's a good matchup. So next thing I know, I'm at my grandma's house and my kids were staying there at the time. And my phone rings. I actually had family in town from Michigan. And my phone rings and I'm like, 561. I'm not from Florida originally. So I'm like, 561. I know that's Palm Beach County, but who calling me from Palm Beach County?
I didn't call you.
You didn't? No, you text me. You text me. That's what it was. So I'm like, 561. So I'm looking at the number and I think you send the text, hello, Brittany, this is RJ. Did you say RJ or Robert? I think you said RJ.
More than likely, I say RJ.
I think you said RJ.
Yeah.
This is RJ, and Sarita told me to text you, or Sarita told me to say hi to you.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, she gave this man my number? I was like, wait a minute. I don't remember telling her to give this man my number. Time out. So I'm responding to him, and I'm like, okay, this is weird. It was like a blind date through text, which was the first time I've ever done that. And it was so awkward, but you know what? It was so natural. That day that we text back and forth, it was like I had known this man my entire life. And the conversation, we played a game called Celebrity Matchup, or which celebrity are you like?
Something like that.
Something like that. And I was trying to get an understanding of his personality. So I would ask him, what celebrity would you match yourself up to being like? And some of the people he was naming was funny. And I named a couple and we had to explain why we were like that celebrity. And I mean, we text probably for a few hours that day. Mm-hmm. And then it was a few days in between. And then maybe like the next week or so, we text again because I was going out of town. I was going to Disney. Mm-hmm. And we text again. I think that was the first time we talked on the phone while I was at Disney too. Mm-hmm. And we talked on the phone, and we maybe talked in text for about a couple weeks before we actually met in person. Yeah. So we talked in text for a couple weeks, and we had a lot of deep conversation before we even met in person. And once he told me he was married before as well, we kind of came into it like, listen, we done been down this road before. We got kids. Ain't no time to waste. Like, we don't want to get into this and waste each other's time. We don't want to have like preconceived notions of the situation. We don't want to have wrong expectations. Like, we were so blunt and to the point from the start. And we talked about stuff that a lot of people are like, y'all talked about that? Like, before y'all even got serious? Like, we really did. We had a lot of hard conversations because our mindset was, our kids have been through enough already because we both had very, very difficult divorces. And we said the last thing we want to do is now bring them into any new situation and have them go through anything else negative. So we really went into it like, okay, you're a nice person and everything, but if this goes further than friendship, I got some questions, basically. So we would sit up and just talk all night on the phone and text and for weeks before we even met in person. And we finally met in person at Meisner in Boca. And we actually took our maternity photos there a week or so ago. And it was like a movie. It really, really was. I was so nervous. I told my parents I was going to meet him. My parents was like, you don't need to be choosing nobody else. You don't need to be dating nobody else. I don't know why you even talking to anybody, because they was just like totally done. So I said, no, I didn't pick this one. I think God picked this one because Sarita came out of nowhere with this one. So this wasn't me. So we went to Meisner, met up there, and I can still remember seeing his face for the first time. I remember what outfit he had on. I remember how his dress was twisted. I remember what he smelled like. Everything was perfect. And I was so scared because it was like meeting a stranger. I had never seen him in person before. I'd seen pictures of him. We had sent pictures to each other. But so I knew who I was looking for. It was like I was there like asking people, is your name RJ? You know, but it was just, I was scared, but I was comfortable at the same time because we had talked so much. And it was one of the best days of my life, our first date. It really, really was.
The longest date.
And the longest date. We stayed at Meisner, y'all, till like, what was it, like 1 o'clock in the morning?
Yeah.
I think it was 1 o'clock, which my dad had a fit about. And we stayed out there so long. I mean, and he had planned the perfect day. We met up, we walked through Meisner, and we went to the Boca Art Museum, and we went to iPick, and we went to Yard House for dinner, and we went through all the furniture stores out there. I'm a shopper, so I went in like every store, y'all. I know this man was probably like, I shouldn't have brought this woman to the shopping place. So we went in like every store. And you know what was funny? When we went to the art museum, the lady in there said, y'all make a really nice couple. You remember that?
Ironically, that was like 2 or 3 people that said that.
It was 2 or 3 people. It was a lady in the gift shop. It was a lady who was coming out of Z Gallery. And people was just talking like, wow, y'all make a really good looking couple. And we was like, we ain't even no couple like that for real. Like, we wasn't even official. It was just our first date. And RJ said, maybe that's a sign. And I said, maybe it is, you know, trying to play hard to get, right? And we talked so much that night. We sat on the bench by the Mexican restaurant, and we talked there for hours until like they just shut Meisner down. They like, okay, y'all gotta go home. So we went. He parked in one parking garage. I parked in another. So he got in the car with me so I can drive him over to the other parking garage. And we just sat in the car and we listened to music and we just talked. And We did kiss on our first date.
Mhm.
We did kiss. And it was perfect. We talked about our lives. We talked about our kids. We talked about our jobs. The job I was at that time, I always had crazy stories. And it was like we knew each other for years. It really, really was.
Yeah.
And it just, my dad was calling me like, ma'am, I know you're grown and everything, but we don't know this guy, so I need you to get back home. So that's kind of what ended our date. But still to this day, we hold to a R&B love song. R for Robert and B for Brittany, but because music has been so intricate to our relationship, lyrics to love songs have been so intricate to our relationship. So we hold to that. That's something that's special to us, and we do a lot with music. We're both music lovers as well. Um, but that day was it was special for me because it reignited my hope in relationships, especially because my first marriage had failed and even my dating relationships prior and after were just not successful. And I had just made up in my mind, like, I'm okay being by myself. I'm cool with that. It's me and Jesus. I'm good. God gonna help me raise these babies. There's plenty of women in the Bible that wasn't married. I'm gonna be all right. And this, meeting him and everything that surrounded that really just placed a seed of hope in my heart that really wasn't there anymore. I thought that it had just fallen on dry ground, but that situation really reignited that for me.
Mhm.
All right, RJ, tell us your version.
Okay. So a couple of things with that, right? So was divorced, and Sarita and Joe had been coming to Suncoast. I was a member at Suncoast, and they were aware of my situation. Sarita reminds me a lot of my older sister Tammy. So Sarita's kind of like a big sister to me, you know, and her being familiar with my personality, after I had dated a couple of people and it hadn't really worked out, God always just kind of gently led me away from them, so to speak. And, everything kind of just, I was to a point much where Brittany was, where I was like, okay, if it ain't happened by now, I'm good. I'm not even gonna look. I'm gonna just focus on God, focus on my daughter, and live life. So Sarita, I believe it was a Wednesday. She had been talking to me about, maybe like some potentials before. I think there was somebody that she worked with at the time, or they worked for her at the time. And she was like, that Sunday, she was like, okay, on Wednesday, I'm gonna bring you her phone number. And I was like, Sarita, look, I'm really not like doing that, so you don't have to do that. So on Wednesday came, and um, church let out, and she was like, hey, RJ. I was like, what? And she was like, she said, I got two phone numbers for you. So she actually wrote down two phone numbers: the phone number of the girl that she had been talking about, and Brittany's number. So she points to the one that she worked, her coworker's phone number, and she was like, text her tonight. So I'm like, I'm again, no, I don't want to do this because this is just weird. Like, Sarita, really? Come on now. And she was like, no, for real, just text her because she's expecting to hear from you. So just, text her. So I'm like, man, whatever. Just leave me alone. So I go out to the car, or as I'm on my way out to my car, she stops me and she was like, no, wait, I changed my mind. Text the other girl, which happened to be Brittany's number. So she was like, text her. I'm like, I finally agreed to this, right? And now you switching up. I don't know, man. I don't know. And she was like, RJ, just shut up and text her. So I'm like, dude, does this girl, like, does she even know that I'm reaching out? She was like, yeah, she's expecting you to reach out to her.
I know that.
Now, mind you, Brittany had no idea, right? So I'm sitting here and I'm a person, I overthink things. I overanalyze every situation, oftentimes to my detriment. So I get home and I swear it was like a drama movie. Like, so I'm sitting in the dark, right? The moon is shining in, and I'm looking at this phone number on my ottoman, and I'm just sitting here like this. Like, what do you even say to a person that you've never met, nor have you ever seen? You barely know this person's name, right? Well, I knew a first name, but I didn't even know the last name.
Yeah,
So I'm like, okay, what do I say? And I was like, man, I'm gonna just say hi. This is RJ, whatever, and let it be what it's gonna be, right? So, to my surprise, she actually responded, and it kind of just picked up from there. And we had communicated via text for a while, um, for at least a week, and then we finally spoke. To my understanding, and you didn't say this, but to my understanding, when I actually called you, like you were in a closet or something.
Yes, I was. Okay, so let me tell a story about that, right? Because that just sounds weird. Like when I'm sitting in the closet talking to you.
Yeah.
I was in the closet because I was at Disney with my cousin, my aunt, actually two of my cousins and my aunt. No, three of my cousins and my aunt. And everybody, my entire family, y'all told me I couldn't date no more. This is how bad of choices I made in men, okay? So my entire family was like, Brittany, you're not about to date nobody else. So if you're talking to somebody, we all need to meet him. We all need to talk to him, and we all need to run him through the filter before you even allow us to date him, right? So I was in a closet because I had to hide the fact that I was on the phone with somebody and talking and flirting and laughing. So I was talking really, really low. And my cousin came in there and opened up the closet door and was like, who you in here talking to? And I'm like, oh, it's just my friend. I had to talk about some private stuff. So I came in here to talk to my friend. And she was looking like, mm-hmm. But she didn't go tell my aunt, though, because if she would have told my aunt, it would have been a problem. So that's why I was in the closet talking to you.
I know. I heard that part. I heard somebody open the door and was like, who you in here talking to? I'm like, what is going on over there? So in any case, to my surprise, we hit it off really well. The chemistry there was really natural. It was really just organic. And, after having gone through a few relationships that really just didn't work and I was ready to quit, God brings along this person. And it's like I didn't really have to try to impress her with certain things, right? So I set up the date at Meisner. We finally got together. She said she was nervous. I was nervous too, right? So let me tell y'all. So I picked out my outfit. Like it was like the first day of school. So I picked out my outfit like the day before, right? I ironed my shirt the day before, right? I sprayed cologne on the shirt the day before, right? So that Dolce would have a moment to settle in, right? So I had my shirt ironed and I'm ready to go to Meisner, but I'm like, okay, I know if I get in this car with this shirt, I'm gonna have the seatbelt wrinkles. So I rode to Meisner with no shirt on. I had my shirt hanging up in the car because I didn't want to be there wrinkled. Right? So I get there, I park, I throw my shirt on, and if I'm not mistaken, I had the cologne in the car with me. So like I threw on the shirt, bow, bow, hit it twice, right? And I get out to go meet her. So I'm in the parking garage and I'm walking through and I'm like, now mind you, I had looked her up on Facebook. I'm not even gonna lie.
I did too.
I looked her up on Facebook. She had sent me a picture so I would know who it is I'm looking for. And I got out of the parking garage and got to the little Meisner Square. And I'm looking for her. And then I see her and it's like everybody else just disappeared. And Meisner was like full of people that day, but everybody else disappeared. And I was locked in. I think I just walked across traffic. I didn't even really care. And I saw her under the sign for the Mexican restaurant that we wound up closing out our date with. Mm-hmm. And now, mind you, I really only planned on going to the museum, but she thinks I didn't plan that day. I really didn't. But it was a situation where the chemistry was just so great that I was thinking, okay, what else can we do so that I don't have to say goodbye just yet? So I was like, okay, let's window shop. I feel like we did, yeah.
We did.
I was like, okay, let's window shop. Now, mind you, when we left the museum, we went, we just perused through the gift shop, and the clerk in there was like, "Oh, y'all make a beautiful couple." So I'm like, "Oh, okay." And I was feeling that. And then we went window shopping. We went through a few stores. We went to Z Gallery. We went to some other store that I knew I couldn't afford, but we went in there anyway. Mind you, the reason why I wanted to go window shopping was to see if I was going to be with her, what type of work I was going to have to do to maintain the stuff that she liked. So I would purposely say to her, like, and it was like a men's store. It was like some men's store that like old white dudes shop in. And they had like silk Hawaiian shirts in there that cost like $400. And these shorts that were way too short for a man, but they were like $600. And I'm like, oh, so what if I wore it? And she was like, no. I was like, okay, she's good. So we went in a few more stores, and I think somebody else mentioned that, we were a good looking couple.
Mm-hmm.
And then did we eat first and then go to the movies?
I think so.
I think we ate first. I think we ate first, and we had like one of the realest conversations ever, because I think we were both to a point where, we were both to a place where we didn't want to waste anyone else's time. Mm-hmm. We certainly didn't want to waste each other's time, but we came to it at that initial meeting being as transparent as we could possibly be. Mm-hmm. So our conversation at the restaurant probably, after we ate, was probably still like another hour and change. And I was still thinking, okay, what else can we do?
I could not tell. He seemed like he had the whole night planned out like to a T. I'm like, this man is so organized.
Yeah, which is not true. So, so we're at the restaurant. I feel like she went to the bathroom. So she got up to use the bathroom, and I'm like, I hit smartphone. Pow, what else is at Meisner? And the iPick was there. So I'm like, okay, bet we can go see a movie. And I think the only things playing at iPick at that time were Jurassic World,
mm-hmm. and Dope,
and this movie called Dope.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I had seen all the Jurassic Park movies. It was an action movie. I wasn't really feeling that at the moment. So I had never seen Dope. I had never even heard of it really. So I was like, okay, let's go see Dope, because wanted to see Jurassic World, but it was like sold out.
Yeah,
it was sold out. Mm-hmm. So we went to go see Dope, and Dope was actually a really good movie. Mm-hmm. And then after the movie, we were still like walking around. I feel like we got ice cream, mm-hmm. or frozen yogurt, or something.
We did. We went to Sloan's.
Yep. And, we just talked more, and it was great. I mean, I say it was the longest date I've ever been on, but not in a bad way. It was truly amazing, right? Just the level of conversation we were able to have, the level of chemistry we were able to have. It seemed like our humor just bounced off of each other. And then the ways that we spoke about the church, like honestly, after that date, I kind of felt like, okay, I'm in the danger zone, because this woman's looking like real wife potential right now. And I didn't really think that I wanted that, but God just dropped her off as a random phone number from a goofy friend who told me to shut up and text her.
Wow. I love your story, because it's like, as we're looking, like y'all don't see what we see, but you guys just finished each other's sentences several times. And it's just like, you guys are so in sync, right? Like you all are so in sync. And it gives us single women hope, right? Like, we'll have a goofy friend that'll say, hey, just call her, or, answer that number. Like, he gonna text you, just answer that. So I really appreciate that you shared that with us. Now I'm nosy because I know there are certain questions that you ask because of, the dating and it being a disaster. And of course, the divorces that ended in a way that just kind of, I want to say, just kind of ruined the whole notion of ever wanting to get into a relationship. Can you share with us like some of the questions that like y'all got to the nitty gritty with?
Yes, definitely. You want to plug it up?
Yeah.
Okay. He got to plug up the computer.
Yeah, give me 1 second. She can go first.
Okay. I know one of the questions that I asked him was definitely what I think I asked you what do you want in a wife, but what are your expectations of a wife too? Because to me they're two different questions. Your expectations can be, okay, I expect you to cook every day. I expect you to take care of the kids. I expect you to do whatever. They're more like actions, right? But what are you looking for in a wife? What do you need from a wife was more so of, do you expect me to be really patient? Do you expect me to be really forgiving? Do you expect me to be very submissive? Like personality wise, was more so what are you looking for in a wife versus what are your expectations? We also talked about how many people we had been with before we got married. I mean, that was a real conversation for us because it's like you don't want to tell people all your business, but I always felt like I don't want you to find out nothing in the street that you don't know from me first. I can be a little too real, y'all. So he probably knew more than he wanted to know, but I was very honest about that, especially being in the church because you can sometimes think, oh, I'm marrying somebody in the church, so they don't have a past like that, but that is not always the truth. And you can get into something and you think you got the epitome of a church girl and you find out some stuff and you like, nah, bro, this ain't cool. So I was very, very honest with him, even if it was people that he knew. I was honest about that too. Like, I'm sorry, but I dated this person. I talked to that person. You may know this person. Like, I was totally upfront and honest about that. Because I didn't want his family to see me any type of way. I didn't want him to see me. I mean, because his family's in the church. So I didn't want anything to get out and be like, wait a minute, I saw that girl date so-and-so. And then I'd be like, oh yeah, that part. So I told him that up front. I think another question we asked was, what type of parent are you? I think we had that conversation because we wanted to make sure that our parenting styles match. Because when you're coming into a blended family, you're coming in with kids already. And I think by that time, I think my kids were 5 and 6. I feel like they were 5 and 6. That was 2015.
Yeah.
I feel like they were 5 and 6. And it was like, well, if we don't parent the same, that's going to be difficult because we not only have to figure out how to parent the kids that we're bringing in, but then if we plan to have kids together, that's something that we need to kind of be on the same page about. We don't want that to divide us. We asked questions about finances. What are you a spender? Are you a saver? How do you see money? And I remember one thing he said was, what did he say? If I can't buy it 2 times, I don't buy it at all.
Yeah.
And I said, that is profound. Because I'm a spender. I will spend it down to the last penny.
Amen.
So, so I
Amen.
said, ooh, that's going to be a little difficult because he's going to be like, ma'am, we had 10 cents left and you found something to spend 10 cents on?
That'd be $30. She make it work?
This is true.
Man.
So we talked about finances. We talked about even how we felt about the church, because even though we both grew up COC, so we grew up in the church, we grew up with families in the church, we talked a lot about how we viewed the church as a whole, how we viewed our positions in the church, meaning like what's truly required of a Christian versus what people say is required of a Christian, so we had a lot of those conversations. And I just admire how real he was about it. Sometimes you think people grow up in the church, it's like all they know is church and they're closed-minded and that's all they want to talk about is COC and that's all it is. But he loves the field of apologetics, which is basically like, why am I a Christian? And I need to know why I'm a Christian in case I have to defend my case to somebody else, more so than just because I grew up in the church. So a lot of his explanations to me were way beyond my level of understanding because I was kind of one of those people. I grew up in the church and this is why I'm here, So we talked about that. We talked about, I think one of the other questions I asked you was, what mistakes did you make in your previous marriage
Mm.
that you learned from, and that you basically like what did you do wrong in your previous marriage? And because in both of our situations, it was the biblical way, so it was infidelity from the other person, but we wanted to make sure, like, okay, we weren't perfect in those marriages, and we talked very extensively about that, what we did wrong in those relationships, and what we would change going forward, what we knew to do different, and then also what you contributed to that relationship. What do you feel like you brought to the relationship that you will also bring into relationships going forward?
Mm.
Do you think of anything else that we?
Um, I think most people make the, I don't necessarily want to call it an error, but most people ask the question, what are your strengths? And for us, it was more like, given our past, it was like, okay, what's wrong with you? No,
Yeah.
the question was really like, what are your flaws,
Yeah.
right? What do you
Yeah.
feel, your flaws are? Because if you can't deal with a person's flaws, then you really shouldn't be with them. And we had to be really honest about that. We had to both take some, heavy introspective looking at ourselves to say, okay, I'm flawed in this area. I admitted earlier, I'm an overthinker, right? And it wasn't until she asked me that question that I was able to comfortably answer it, honestly. Um, and naturally, there are some other things there, but you have to be honest with your flaws in as much as you're honest about your strengths. Um, the question of where do you feel like your previous marriage failed was a big one. Um, Again, to echo my wife, yeah, both of our situations were similar in that the other person was adulterous.
Mhm.
But we also had to come to grips with, okay, but what part did we play in that?
Mhm.
Was there anything? And I think one of the questions was, is there anything you feel like you could have done differently to save your previous marriage, right? And again, brutal honesty was like, honestly, no, like just that person just was not who we had. I feel like both of our situations were rushed and pressured,
Mhm.
and we went strictly based off of, well, I'd say for me, I went strictly based off of um, surface level feelings at the time, and just dealing with the pressure of, oh snap, I got a kid on the way, right? Um, so I have to make her my wife. And I think my my dad, one of the realest person, you know, if you ever met him, you would say the same thing. But my dad was like one of the realest people I ever knew. And talking to my dad about my previous marriage, when found out a baby was on the way, he was like, "You don't have to marry that girl." Which is funny because my dad he used to be a deacon at Lake Ida Church of Christ, but he was like, "Look, man, no." But I did it anyway, right? Because I felt that pressure. So I had to come to grips in conversation with Brittany why I did what I did, the mistakes that I made when I was in my previous marriage, so that I wouldn't make those same mistakes going forward. We did talk about parenting styles. Um, we talked a lot about the church and how we feel like God has been with us. Um, we asked about failed relationships as well, not just the marriage, because mind you,
Right.
um, we were both divorced. I was divorced for a couple of years before I met Brittany. So I had time to date a couple of people, and it just didn't work out. In a likewise form and fashion, Brittany had been single for a little bit before we met. So we had to ask one another, like, okay, what is it, what do you feel like went wrong in those previous relationships? And it always led back to we just didn't feel like God was in it.
Right.
We were trying to force something to work that would just, God was like, no, this is not who I have for you. And, sometimes it took, a bump on the head And sometimes God will speak loudly. You know, he comes in that still quiet voice, but we got to remember he also came in the earthquake and in the fire and in the tornado. So God can be loud. And it was during that period where God was like, no, dummy, this person is not for you. Right. So, you know, but our conversations leading up to, you know, where we are now have always really been in depth. I've had to face some truths about myself. I've had to grow a lot, just through, you know, the realness of our conversations.
Yeah, because I didn't realize that I was as guarded as I was. I really didn't. I didn't realize that, you know, how sometimes you deal with life trauma. It can be childhood trauma, it can be teenage trauma, it can be adult trauma, and you kind of just cope with it. I mean, because that's my nature. It's like, all right, tighten up, keep moving. I got time for all that crying, just deal with it. And I didn't realize that there was a lot that I hadn't dealt with personally. And what that did was it manifested itself in a way of being so guarded that I wasn't afraid to love. I just chose not to protect myself. And I felt like as long as I don't let anybody get close enough to me to hurt me, then I'm safe. So everybody kind of stayed at like this surface level. Like, if you hurt me, it's all good because you didn't get close to me anyway. Or if I let you too close, now I got to kill you because I done let you way in, and then now I got to just take you out. So it was like I'm an extremist also. So it's like meeting him, you know, the questions that he would ask me really made me have to reflect on that because, you know, sometimes I can be a little rigid. I can be a little hard. I've been called emotionless in some situations. But it was me being guarded and my weaknesses and my vulnerable areas I didn't want to expose to anyone because I was afraid that they would be exploited. I was afraid they would be used. And he was basically like, it's okay. This is a safe place, right? Like he just kind of has this way of communicating where you feel like if I tell this man this, he's not going to come back and use it against me to break me later. And God really allowed me to trust him in that way because I'm probably like, other than like my parents and RJ, it's like there are very few people that I trust enough to open up to because I'm so afraid that vulnerabilities and things like that can be used against me or to chastise me. Or when, you know, when people know you have a certain type of heart, they use it the wrong way. And that's what I was afraid of going into a new situation and to know that he has an even bigger heart than I do. He's more of a giver than I am. He's more unselfish than I am. It's like, wow, I feel safe now. Like I feel selfish compared to him. Like I know I struggle with patience, but this man got the patience of Jesus. So it's like it was so much stuff that I was able to deal with in myself and my own personal flaws in having him. And we've heard so many times from married people, like, your spouse is your mirror. That was actually one of our wedding gifts. A couple that we're close to gave us a mirror and said to remember that, you know, don't take it personal when your spouse tells you flaws that you have, when something don't look good, when something need to be tightened up, because that's their job. That's God living in your house with you, telling you, you need to tighten up. You need to get this right. And when we were talking, there was a lot of things where I was like, wow, I don't have it all together. I'm not as good as I thought that I was. I'm not as stable as I thought I was. I'm not as clear headed thinking as I thought I was, because he was just like, why do you do that? Why was that such a sharp response? Why did you like take it there? It ain't even have to go there. Like, why you take it there? And I'm like, because you ain't about to just do whatever. And he like, I wasn't even trying to do that. Like, like, can you chill a little bit? So
I love how you just shared that.
mhm.
Brittany, you remind me of my daughter Amanda, and I'm gonna go with the Aquarius thing. Y'all just
Mhm.
got ice in y'all veins. I'm sorry. But let's take that out. Your heart is so big and beautiful, and I know hers is too. So you always have this wall up, like you ain't coming. If you break this wall down, like you just said, you're gonna die if you hurt me. So I love how you allowed RJ to break down your walls. because when you and I first met, I think it was at the 295, and you sat next to me and we just like clicked and started having conversations. And I'm like, wow, this girl is amazing. So I thank you for that. And RJ, thank you for loving her past her flaws, sweetheart, because I know how us women could be. Now, RJ, I'm gonna start with you on this question because Brittany started the last two. When did you know Brittany was the one? And Brittany, the same question is gonna go for you.
Um, I don't have a specific date. I can only really say that I knew before she did. Um, Again, because I'm an overthinker, I would constantly think about um, our relationship at the time. I would constantly think about our interactions. And I would say to myself, I mean, like I said, on the first date, I was like, oh my gosh, this girl is like, she's good, she's awesome, right? And it was shortly after that we really might have only been together for like 4 months, and I was like, I'm in trouble. I was like, this is it. I don't want anybody else. I wouldn't want to do this thing with anybody else at that point in time. So I don't have a specific date, but I can say that after just given my nature, after careful consideration, I was just like, yeah, I'm hit. That's the one. So, but I knew before she did.
I think I knew when I was going through a court case at the time of us dating, a situation with my kids, a custody battle. And I had spent so much in attorney's fees. I literally, by this time, I had moved in with my parents. I could barely afford my car note. I was down. I had lost one of my jobs. I was working 2 jobs, and I had lost one of my jobs because of the inconsistencies of the co-parenting situation. And I came to him. I was so embarrassed. I said, I got to pay so many attorney's fees. I don't even know how I'm going to do it. I'm trying to feed my kids. I'm trying to pay for aftercare or whatever. And he came over that weekend and he gave me $500. And he said, this is for the attorney. It was a retainer I had to pay. And he said, this is for the attorney. And I just I wouldn't allow myself to like cry in front of him. Like, I'm just like, I can't. But it just, his words to me were, you're not in this by yourself anymore. You're not alone. I'm here and you can do this. And you won't do this by yourself. I'm here. Whatever it is that you need, we're going to pray through this. We're going to pay for it. I don't care how much it costs. He said, God gave me this job so I can help you pay for this stuff. He had just got a new job at the time we were dating. And just the unselfishness of it, anything that he would do for me or take me anywhere, he just kind of had this giving heart. And it wasn't so much about the money as it was the willingness to support what I was in at that season. And his words to me was, listen, if we don't have nothing, as long as we together, we good. And he shared that with me. His dad told his mom the same thing. I could live in a shack on a farm and not have nothing at all as long as I got you. And I just I had never heard anything like that before. And that's what stuck out to me. And he basically was telling me, I'll give you my last for whatever it is. As long as we good, that's all that matters. So it was then I knew.
Sisters, y'all heard that, right? This man heard her situation and just said, here you go. I got you. You're not in this alone. I love that because a lot of times I'm a very guarded person. So to know that a person just, and I'm prideful. So I probably would have been the one that said, ain't nobody asking for nothing. So oh my gosh, you guys are awesome. Like Brittany and RJ, y'all are so awesome. Let me go to my next question before I get wrapped up. How has the kingdom, the church, blessed your marriage?
Oh, it's my turn again?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. certainly by way of support. Um, given the nature of our situation, we face things that not every married couple is going to face, right? Um, in our situation, and it might sound weird, but just understand where I'm coming from. We're married, but we have to deal with another man and another woman. You know what I'm saying? Like I have to deal with the mother of my daughter. She has to deal with the father of her children. And because we do our level best to be involved with their lives, we have to deal with this person. And in my case, at least, excuse me, every other week. And in Brittany's case, most days, right? Um, so the church, our brothers and sisters in Christ have definitely been there to certainly, first and foremost, to pray for us, um, and talk us through just being a listening ear, because honestly, a lot of them haven't had to deal with the foolishness that we've had to endure. Um, and we know that those days aren't over, but we can always look at, the church. We can always look to the church, our brothers and sisters, our minister, um, for that encouragement, for those words of wisdom, because sometimes we get so, she likes to say that I have the patience of Jesus, but what she doesn't what she doesn't understand is while I'm quiet on the outside, I'll be boiling on the inside. And the only thing that keeps me from snapping is the fact that I know, like she said, I'm into apologetics, so I know that God is real. Mm-hmm. The only thing that keeps me from snapping is those facts that I know. Okay, God is present. He is here. God is alive. Historically speaking, there was someone named Jesus. He was born in Nazareth. So the rest of this stuff has got to be true, logically speaking. So therefore, if I go off and cut this person's brake lines, I'm not gonna make it to heaven. And I don't like the heat. So hell is just not the place for me. So I do, we deal with things. It seems like every month, sometimes 2 or 3 times a month, that personally I feel would break a lot of people. And we've gotten to the point, because of that encouragement, because of the assistance of our brothers and sisters, because of the prayers of our brothers and sisters, because of the support from the church, things like marriage enrichment, and just our brothers and sisters just calling and checking up on us, we're able to look at these situations and laugh like, man, we must be doing something right, because the devil is trying really hard right now.
Yeah.
So the church has certainly helped. There was a period in time where, we got married and we didn't date, right? All I did was go to work and come home, every day. And that's not a good practice to get into, right? You don't want to get complacent, with your spouse and just saying, okay, well, she's here now, so I'm straight. I don't have to try anymore. And mentally, that's kind of where I was. But it was a brother in the church, after hearing my wife speak about it ever so passionately. It was a brother in the church that I spoke to, and he was like, don't start off this way. You're not doing right. You got to do X, Y, Z. So I had to switch it up, and I'm glad I did. I still contact this brother to this day. And our song leader Ruben he's hilarious to me, but he's also one of the more level-headed and wise brothers, along with Brother Gosa, along with Brother Smith, along with Henry, along with, there's just so many within our circle that we can speak to and look at and say, okay, this brotherhood, this church is really helping us to make it.
Mm-hmm.
Year ago, Brittany.
I would definitely say the same. Prayer partners are an invaluable, I hope I'm using the right word, invaluable asset.
That works.
He's my word checker. He has a much greater vocabulary than I do. But definitely an invaluable asset because, and Annie knows she's one of my number ones. I mean, talk about prayer warriors. It's like, you connected to somebody when they know when to call you, like when they know when to text you, when they know, like, my antenna's going off, something ain't right with Britt. And Alicia too. Like, so many people have reached out to me, and so many sisters it's so many to name, but just reach out and just say, hey, I was just thinking about you today. I got a few women I call aunties in the church because they'll like call me like something don't feel right, Britt, and they know I keep it all the way real. Like, okay, just give me a pause, auntie. Let me just go because I'm about to go off. And I love it because I'm able to be myself. You have those select people you can really be yourself, but you can't be yourself with everybody. You got to choose. But you have those select people that you can really be yourself with, so that those prayer warriors and that genuine love and that encouragement and that support is key. It also gives perspective. I think the kingdom has really given us a lot of perspective. Like you mentioned with marriage enrichment class, I love the transparency of a lot of these things, even watching the Jesus sprinkles, because we're able to watch other couples and see, like, people go through stuff, and just because you're a Christian married and God has put you together doesn't mean that it's going to be easy. It doesn't mean that your road is easy. It doesn't mean that you work through things, with the grace of the Lord. And no, it ain't always like that. So it really, really helps to have perspective and to know that sometimes you think stuff is so bad and it's really not. Like, it's really not that serious, and you can get through it. And that has really kept us grounded because we like, if they can make it, we can make it. Just to hear the transparency of so many people and the love that people share, you just get encouraged by seeing that love and by seeing that friendship and that transparency. You see the value of transparency with the kingdom, and really taking a closer look into people's situation and knowing that everything that glitters is not gold. And if you don't get close enough to people, you won't really know that, because you can be part of the kingdom, but not allow the kingdom to be part of your marriage. And you have to allow the kingdom to be part of your marriage in order to really take from it the value that you have to and be able to apply it successfully.
Yes. I like how you just said that. I need you to repeat what you just said, because that was deep, Britt. Like, ooh,
Yeah,
that
that's
was
you. Your
deep.
marriage can be part of the kingdom, but you have to allow the kingdom to be part of your marriage. It's true.
Ooh, that was deep. That was so deep.
Mhm.
Oh goodness, you just blew my mind with that one. I felt like we was in a poetry thing and I just wanted to snap my fingers. That was so good. Now, how has your marriage blessed the kingdom?
We're still figuring that out.
Yeah, I think we're still
We still
figuring that
figuring
out.
that out.
Um, we watched a couple of these before, and we came to the realization that we're the newest couple,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
We're still in the throes of learning one another. Um, and granted, we're much closer now than we've been before, but we're still learning one another. And in that, we're still also learning what God would have us to do, for the kingdom. Um, we're open to what He would have us to do. And we know that sometimes God will call you to do things that you're not comfortable with. um, but recognizing our role as Christians, we we have to be open to whatever direction God would have us to go in. So we are doing what we can in the meantime, and we're waiting for God to give us that direction to say, okay, this is the way that I want you to go.
Mhm.
I love that. Like you guys say, y'all the newest couple. So like, Lord, we still trying to figure it out. We ain't been where they've been, but when you're ready, we're ready. I love that. Both of you, what advice would you have for single Christians desiring marriage?
Mhm. That's a whole lot. How much time y'all got? No. Ooh. Um, let God do it. That's that's like let God do it
Yeah.
because I told y'all how bad my choices in men was, right? So um I definitely say let God do it because God has a way of giving you time to learn you before you try to learn somebody else. Because that's real hard to do at the same time. I know that we are gifted individuals and we are made in his image, but that is one fact and asset of God that we struggle with as humans is to be able to learn ourselves and know ourselves and learn somebody else in depth at the same time. So I would definitely say take that time to learn who you are in this season because we change, especially as women. Today we this person, tomorrow we a whole nother person. But in your season, that's not funny. That's not funny. In this season, learn who you are, learn what you love, learn what you're passionate about, learn what you bring to not only the table per se, but just what God has placed in you that the world needs. Because when you know that, it gives you a different purpose in life. And it also gives you a mindset that you are still an individual, even in your marriage. Yes, you're one, but it's important that each person respect the individuality of each other in the marriage. So it's like knowing what God put you here for. And that can be, as we understand it, our purpose, what's our plan that God has for us. That may change per season, so in the season that you're in, know what you're supposed to be doing in that moment and be focused on that. And when you're focused on that, God's like, okay, while she's not paying attention, let me send this one in right now for her. And that's much how he did Adam. Why Adam not paying attention? Here you go. Here go your wife. Because when you looking, sometimes you're looking too hard and you paying too close attention. Like, okay, could he be it? Could he be it? Could it be this? Could it be that? And we all know when we working on something real hard, but we take some time away and come back to it, it's like with a fresh mindset. So I would definitely say stay focused on what God has for you in your season and focus on who God wants you to be, and He will bring to you what He wants you to have. And be super honest and transparent, even when it's really, really painful. Because it's good
100%.
later. It's very good later.
She just took my answer. I was just gonna say that. As kids, we always hear that honesty is the best policy, and that could not be more true than, excuse me, than when you're, you know, looking at a potential spouse. While you are dating, we have a tendency to put forth our best foot and not oftentimes the real one, right? And with that, you leave so much in the closet. You leave so many skeletons in the closet. It's like, look, you know, we both came to the table with a lot of baggage. And if I may, we both came to the table with bandages trying to cover the cracks that we had. We were both coming from situations that left us to a degree broken, right? And within that brokenness, like I would simply say, to the men out there, don't be afraid of how broken you may feel, because God has somebody out there that's going to fill in those missing pieces, right? And when you leave yourself open to what God has for you, certainly do the things that you know that you're supposed to be doing. Continue worshiping, continue serving, continue seeking out ways to uplift the kingdom and outreach it and all of those things. And, I'm not saying it's going to come in the same way, the same form or fashion, but God has a way of interrupting your life with something beautiful.
Yes, ain't that the truth?
Who look, I need y'all to write a poetry book because y'all both just had me right here like, oh, that is so good. I've never heard it like that way. And I know you guys are speaking from experience because you've gone through it, the marriage, and now God has brought something so amazing and beautiful together. You guys don't know, like, I love y'all. Look, I absolutely love y'all. And definitely you're always in my prayers. Victory is yours. I'm claiming it in the name of Jesus. The next time we have a deep conversation, Britt, you're gonna be like, the Lord just, girl, he showed up and showed out, and we got victory. So
Amen.
I'm just claiming it over both of you. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your transparency. RJ, I know this was not the easiest for you. Thank you for coming. Thank you. So, sisters, as we are about to ask the Dexters questions, come off of mute and ask your questions away.